Sup, welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. I am so happy that y'all been loving having Mary back on. Couple of more videos here and there. I have some more videos recorded, specifically with Baldur's Gate, of now solo playthrough, so at some point when I figure out how to edit those and how to make it look fun, I'll release those as well. I'm glad y'all been enjoying Mary, and hopefully we can get Micah to join as well. And maybe Thessalia. Who knows? Thessalia is the other druid that's in our party, basically. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the first story for today. DM rage quit because a player rolled inside. We were 6 months into a 5e campaign, with a few homebrew mechanics. Most of us didn't know each other outside D&D. The DM took it pretty seriously. Every location has been built on Talespire, so even though we met in person, we used on-screen maps. Because of that, A, he railroaded slightly to stop us going to places he hadn't built in advance, and B, he clearly spent a lot of time working on building maps outside sessions. Oh my god, I can relate. I use VTT Foundry for my sessions and stuff, and it kind of creates a problem where sometimes you want to make a lot of places, but you players say, hey DM, could we explore this place? And I just go, no, the roads are blocked, and the guards aren't letting anybody pass through, and there's a strong wind that keeps you away. You know, just kind of give them a reason to kind of just stay in the areas that are built, and until I make more areas. The campaign was fine, otherwise. We had 5 players with pretty different playstyles, but we bundled along. Then a week ago, a session ended with our players being asked by an NPC whether we wanted to accept a mission before we had a chance to come to a decision. So the next day, the DM WhatsApps us, asking us to each give our vote. We never really played as a group on WhatsApp before, but we all started pitching in, giving our reasons for saying yes or no. The DM quickly clarified that he wants in-character responses only. One player, we'll call him Steen, says he wants to roll inside on the NPC about something, rolls on D&D Beyond, and gives his score on WhatsApp. Asks the DM what he intuits. The DM refuses, re-emphasizing that he wants in-character responses only. Steen says he needs to know what his character thinks before giving an in-character response. The DM still refuses. There's a little back and forth, and meanwhile a few of us give our responses, offering a mix of in-character direct speech and also adding our reasoning. Then the DM, clearly getting impatient, adds a WhatsApp poll about what to do with 4 options. Yay, nay, yay, but let's talk rewards. I want to roll for history to see if my boot leather was acquired in sustainable way. So, wait, hold up, the DM is railroading the players by forcing them into the Fallout 4 speech option of like A, B, X, Y. Why? The whole fun about playing TTRPGs is the ability to say and ask questions as your character, and you're not limited by like limited dialogue from an RPG game or something. You can ask a bunch of questions and you can roll insight or history or whatever in order to influence how you would respond. I don't know why the DM is railroading the players into such a limited selection. Well, clearly a bunch of us picked comedy option 4. And not 30 minutes later, the DM says, frick it, and cancels the campaign entirely, citing a long list of grievances, including apparently shifting the campaign to WhatsApp and insisting that we RP in character without letting us discuss things or use mechanics like rolling insight is fine and valid, and not immediately falling in line with it is a bannable offense. Why are you limiting your players from only responding in RP characters, especially since, you know, they have skill checks to roll, like insight? That's a very valid thing to roll. Sometimes you need to roll persuasion, deception, insight, intimidation for these sort of social situations to figure out what your next response is. You roll these sort of things to help players decide what they want to say in RP situations. If a player can't roll insight and just have to go with what they said like on text, you might as well just go play a video game. What's the point of having insight if you can't roll insight? If people could do a play-by post, then so can this DM. Just let people know on WhatsApp what they got for the insight roll and what they received. Make it a bannable offense. What are you gonna do? Get so upset because they just want to roll a thing they're supposed to be able to roll anyway? Picking the comedy option he provided in a multiple choice poll, even temporarily, is actively sabotaging his campaign and therefore also a bannable offense. Dude, you gave him that option. You can't just pull a gotcha because you gave him the option. If you give a player the option to say the silly thing, and guess what? Some players will want to just pick the silly thing. just to see what happens. It's kind of your fault for allowing this silly thing to happen because you put it as an option choice. You can't just go screaming, aha, you're doing this to sabotage the thing. No, dude, he put it as an option. So I decided to select the option because guess what? I wanted to see what would happen. For bonus points, when one player, we'll call him Seamus, said their motivation for saying yes was to curry favor with the person X in the hope of eventually getting help and recapturing place Y. This was nonsensical because Y didn't exist anymore, despite the fact that Seamus' character had used the goal of recapturing Y in every session as the rationale for every major decision, and it had never been a problem before because it had never been mentioned before that Y no longer existed. Guess what? That was a bannable offense too. Okay, yeah, the DM is just clear as mud at this point. If you're not gonna communicate with your players that, hey, guess what? Y doesn't exist, so your plot point doesn't matter. You probably should let your players know that Y doesn't exist, and they should probably change the plot point because, or hey, guess what? Make Y exist because that's what you originally agreed for the player to go try to seek out or recapture or whatever. If player characters are seeking something, why do you, as a DM, not choose to, if it makes sense, to use as a plot hook to get them interested and invested in the campaign further? But instead you're like, oh no, it doesn't exist, it never existed in the first place, you just never been there. Ha ha ha, I'm the smartest DM ever. He continued, and indeed still continues, to claim that he's entirely in the right, and proof of the pudding is that we picked the option in the poll that he put it in to test us. It's literally was a gotcha from the start. Why do you try to test your players? What are they, an experiment? They're your players, for crying out loud. Just play with them and give them reasonable options and work with them and be flexible with them. Jesus Christ, why is this so difficult? Which feels like 14-year-old passing notes in class levels of insecurity. And he is over 40. So that's that. No more campaign. And I guess the hundreds of maps he built on Tailspire will go into cold storage. Next time, we'll just not roll inside, I guess. Or you dodge the bullet with a crappy DM and now you have a chance, the opportunity to be free, to find a better DM. Or maybe one of y'all become the DM and just not do the thing that this DM is doing, because this is really stupid. It's extremely stupid. Not allowing insight, bannable offense. How dare you not go with what I've given you? Haha, you chose the test option. I was testing you and you clearly show that you want to sabotage my game. No, dude, you gave players the option to do the silly thing. And if you give them the option for that, of course they're gonna get curious. Would you not get curious over a silly option? Anyway, let's get to the next story for today. And hopefully it's not gonna be as aggravating as this one. Manchild gets butthurt after his absurdly offensive character gets killed off. This happened back in 2021, when the pandemic was kinda sorta starting to wane or become manageable. Our party still played on Discord though, since we all met online and lived in different parts of the world. Full disclosure, this game of D&D had a world of rules so radically homebrewed that it should be reasonable to be considered a different game. I will try to explain. In a nutshell, it was extremely strategic, player agenda driven, that somehow encouraged PvP and splitting the absurdly large party. Players also had their own mini kingdoms and armies to command. The leveling system was also brutally unequal and magic items could damn near break the game. It sounded really insane, but the actual game itself was fun. You know, a game with a lot of players, as long as it's managed properly, maybe with like 1 or 2 DMs, I think would be fine. Maybe, potentially, I don't know. I'd love to do a raid in D&D where it's like 12 players against insurmountable odds and crazy cool bosses and mini bosses and a wave of ads and stuff. Oh, that'd be so fun. I need to design that, for sure. Anyway, let's continue. That brings us to the problem player. I refer to him as Julius. He is in many ways the quintessential edgy teenager, except he wasn't a teenager, he was a grown-ass man. He would troll online, insult people's religion, and use offensive language for craps and giggles. Yay, Julius sounds so fun to be around. Wow, sounds like a real charmer there. So Julius decided to play with us, and he goes for an elf paladin with a crisis of faith. His goal was to abandon his god and become an oathbreaker paladin who would renounce all the gods. The abandonment of faith led to a clash with the party's cleric, Tiefling, who shared the same religion as him. As tensions between them got more heated, both players tried to influence NPCs, hoard magic items, and sway the rest of the party to their side. It just so happens though that the de facto leader of the party, Wizard, sided with Cleric and gave him access to the insane magic item the Wizard had spent the early game collecting. Cleric had also been collaborating with a village of Tieflings living under Paladin's control. Most of the Paladin's people are elves. Cleric also met with a cult leader that had been a long-time enemy of Paladin. Are we sure that Cleric, like, not to jump the gun, but it sounds like if there's a feud between Julius and the Cleric, the Tiefling Cleric, maybe the Tiefling Cleric is also a problem player? I mean, going as far as to try to turn sides and draw the lines and stuff like that. I mean, I guess the game encourages that sort of thing, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if both are a problem. When Paladin find out, he accused Cleric of trying to start a war. They got into a heated argument, which came to a head when Paladin drew his weapon and Cleric cast Sacred Flame, and battle ensued. Both characters used their magic items to fight, and by the end, Paladin had died. All this was fine at this point. Is it really fine? I mean, it looks like two problem players trying to start beef with each other and gonna create a lot of drama on a table. I don't think it's really fine. I wouldn't say it's fine. I think it's a problem, and maybe the DM should have stepped in or tried to, you know, not encourage PvP between players, because PvP in these RPG horror stories, it never goes right. You really shouldn't encourage PvP unless it's like non-lethal stuff, because like there's a lot of hurt feelings that can happen from this whole thing, and just it becomes a giant mess when you let PvP happen. Paladin then threw a mini temper tantrum about how the DM was biased for giving Cleric so many powerful magic items and secret armies. DM just kinda laughed at this and said that the game was not meant to be balanced in combat. You do as well as you prepare. Nevertheless, he rolled up an elf warlock who was apparently now the leader of Paladin's army. He said that Cleric would now see a true evil and vowed to get serious about the Tiefling question. Yeah, he was going exactly where you think he's going. Tiefling question? Is that a reference I don't get? I gotta look that up. Ah, I see. Racism. I thought they talked about a different Tiefling question. Why are we so hot? He claimed that his warlock had an extra-dimensional bond with the spirit of, well, let's just say the Austrian painter from World War II. Hold on 1 second. What the fuck? So wait a minute. Is this person implying that their warlock's patron was Hitler? Jesus Christ, dude. I don't have the emotions to express how I feel. I just feel bewildered. This is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever read on RPG horror stories. He demanded that this would be his patron. Oh my god! Actual Hitler as your warlock patron. What the fuck, dude? And he have access to his real life famous book, the one that translates to my struggle. What is wrong with it? I'm sorry, but I can't take it seriously. It sounds so stupid. It sounds so absolutely idiotic. Please tell me the DM doesn't approve of this. Please tell me the DM is just laughing in the face of this stupid ass player. He did not tell the DM that this is his backstory. Of course he's not gonna tell the DM that this is the backstory. You can't possibly convince anybody in the world that this is like a legit thing. You can't. This has to be fake. This has to be fake. I can't believe it at all. It sounds so bewildering. But you know what? It's kind of entertaining. Let's see how this disaster ends up. So the DM questioned him and he responded by going full rules lawyer and pointing out how his build should, according to the lore of the DM set out to, be allowed to have a connection to the aforementioned Austrian painter. The DM said he'd allow it as long as he didn't incorporate actual bigotry in the game and kept it limited to in-game bigotry. Oh, right, DM. Yeah, the players definitely 100% gotta do that. The players definitely gotta listen to you. Why'd you even let them? Why'd you even let them? I mean, clearly you said, as long as it doesn't get too real, but you know how it's gonna go. I know how it's gonna go. You know how it's gonna go. Let's see this disaster unfold. He then described how he and his army were going to go to the Tiefling village and round up all the men and seal them away in a Shadowfell prison and all the women in order to forcibly impregnate them with elves and indoctrinate them into elven culture. DM, you really should have put a kibosh on it. You really should have put a stop on it right then and there, man. Look what he is doing. Look what he is doing. Look how he's massacring your world with his degeneracy. He also claimed that he would take a 13-year-old human girl as his concubine after killing her parents for collaborating with the Tieflings. Okay, DM, this is the right time to step in. This guy wants to take a 13-year-old as a concubine. He's literally a pedo. He's literally a fucking pedo. This is the great time to just like stop it right now. So please, whenever you're ready, step in and stop it. He then described how she fell in love with this warlock. Ew. He described in graphic detail all the... okay, yeah, I feel really disgusted now. No more is this like absurd satire. It's just gross right now. DM, this is a great time to just like step in and kick the guy out. I hope you do the right thing because this is way too far. At this point, the DM put his foot down and told him to either age the girl up or knock it off with the graphic sexual content. Thank you, finally stepping in. Also, you should probably let him know to tone down and maybe retcon all the other stuff they've done with like the Tiefling question thing because it's getting really kind of weird and gross. The whole thing is gross. You try to argue and say, my character is built to be as evil as I can think of. The DM said he could do whatever he wanted, but the issue was when he got graphic about it. He kept trying to argue with the DM about it, so the DM then said, if you can't be much sure about this, then I don't want this character in the game. And then he instantly had Warlock's armies barge in and kill him and told him to roll a new character, but this is the only warning. Okay, well, maybe not the response I would have given, but at least listen. I'm gonna throw the bone to the DM and say that at least they're stopping the degenerate from being a further degenerate. It's weird that the DM is still allowing the player to even stay in the first place, but maybe they have a different like limit to it. Maybe they have a tolerance to nonsense bullshittery. I have no idea at this point. He then got real ass mad and went off again about DM's bias and how everyone here hates him, and then accused Cleric for projecting his religious beliefs onto the game. Paladin Warlock then rage quit, but not before calling us all the N-word. Yeah, good riddance, the guy sucks. We didn't talk to this problem player again until months later when the new guy took over DMing after the game ended. And the last DM left, as did many of the other players, as new ones came in. Those who stayed warned the new DM about the guy, but he didn't listen. So now Problem is basically playing a knockoff of Emperor from Warhammer 40k. Oh boy. I'm still here because personally I have pretty thick skin, plus I don't want to leave my friends to this idiot, including the new players, many of whom this will be their first experience with D&D. I would just cut your losses and just leave because it doesn't seem like things are going to get better, and if the new DM is just allowing the problem player to roam free, they're going to just do the same thing again and again and again. Remove the problem player or else it festers like an infection, and then everything's just going to get rancid and disgusting and just, yeah, the server is just going to die anyway, so I'd say just leave. I would definitely leave. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.